How do so many people get to be so evil?
It's human nature. We're selfish.
You was right all along.
The countdown starts again. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, and suddenly Rue Bennett realizes there is nowhere left to run. Every lie, every addiction, every broken promise, and every dangerous decision she thought she escaped is now closing in around her like a trap. But this time, it is different. This is not another emotional breakdown. This is survival. Because while Rue is desperately trying to hold herself together, Nate Jacobs is hiding a secret powerful enough to destroy every relationship around him. Cassie is spiraling toward complete emotional destruction, and the entire town is about to explode into violence that nobody can control anymore. By the end of this night, nobody walks away unchanged.
You and me, we was meant to be.
Rue's nightmare begins with silence. Not the peaceful kind, but the terrifying silence that happens right before everything collapses. She cannot sleep. She cannot breathe normally. Her mind keeps replaying the same memories over and over again, like a broken tape recorder. Laurie's cold voice echoes inside her head every second, reminding her that debts like hers do not simply disappear. Rue tries convincing herself that maybe Laurie moved on. Maybe she forgot. Maybe somehow she escaped the consequences of stealing thousands of dollars worth of drugs. But deep down, Rue already knows the truth. Laurie never forgets, and the fear of what comes next slowly destroys Rue from the inside. Every hallway feels dangerous. Every stranger looks suspicious. Every car outside her house feels like the beginning of the end. The paranoia becomes unbearable as Rue realizes she is no longer fighting addiction alone. She is fighting for her life. At the same time, Cassie Howard is completely falling apart emotionally. The fantasy she created inside her mind is finally collapsing in front of her eyes. For so long, Cassie convinced herself that if she loved Nate enough, if she sacrificed enough, if she became exactly what he wanted, then somehow everything would work out. But reality hits her harder than ever before. Nate's cold behavior becomes impossible to ignore. The affection disappears. The fake promises disappear. And Cassie starts understanding the painful truth that she was never truly loved the way she imagined. Her obsession turns into desperation, and that desperation slowly transforms into emotional chaos. She cannot control her emotions anymore. Every conversation becomes explosive. Every small problem feels like the end of the world. Her identity completely breaks apart as she realizes she destroyed friendships, trust, and even herself for someone who was never capable of giving her real love in return. Meanwhile, Maddie is no longer the same person either. The betrayal changed her. The anger inside her becomes quieter, colder, and far more dangerous. Instead of emotional reactions, Maddie begins seeing everything clearly for the first time. She understands how manipulation poisoned everyone around her. She understands how Nate controlled people through fear, lies, and emotional pressure. But most importantly, she understands that nobody around her is innocent anymore. The relationship between Cassie and Maddie reaches a point where forgiveness becomes impossible. Every look between them carries years of pain, jealousy, betrayal, and regret. The tension becomes unbearable because both of them know there is no fixing what has already been broken. And right in the middle of this destruction stands Nate Jacobs himself. But for the first time, Nate is not in control. The image he spent years building starts cracking apart from every direction. His secrets become heavier than ever before, especially the truth connected to his family. Nate spent his entire life trying to become powerful because deep down he was terrified of weakness. But now that fear begins consuming him completely. The pressure surrounding his father, the lies hidden inside the Jacobs family, and the emotional damage he caused to everyone around him finally begin collapsing onto him all at once. Nate realizes that power means nothing when your entire world starts turning against you. Every decision he made now creates consequences he cannot stop anymore. As the night continues, the atmosphere becomes darker and more dangerous. Rue receives signs that Laurie's people are getting closer. Small details begin terrifying her. Strange movements outside, unknown numbers calling repeatedly, random cars parked too long near her house. Rue tries pretending she can stay calm, but the fear completely consumes her mentally. She knows Laurie does not operate through emotion. Laurie operates through patience, and that patience is what scares Rue the most, because Rue finally understands that she is dealing with people who see human lives as transactions, not people. Every second that passes feels like a countdown towards something violent waiting to happen. The emotional destruction inside Cassie also reaches its breaking point. She becomes trapped inside her own mind, unable to separate fantasy from reality anymore. Her need for validation becomes so extreme that every rejection feels like emotional death. The sadness inside her slowly transforms into instability. She lashes out emotionally, says things she cannot take back, and pushes herself deeper into isolation. Nobody around her fully understands how broken she has become because Cassie hides her pain beneath emotional chaos. But inside, she is collapsing completely. She wanted love so badly that she lost herself chasing it. At the same time, Nate begins making reckless decisions out of panic. His carefully controlled personality starts disappearing as pressure closes in from every direction. The secrets surrounding his father become impossible to contain forever, and Nate realizes that exposing the truth may destroy his family permanently. But keeping those secrets buried may destroy him instead. The emotional conflict inside Nate creates a terrifying shift in his behavior. For once, he is cornered. For once, he does not know how to control the situation. And when someone like Nate loses control, everyone around him becomes dangerous collateral damage. Then everything explodes at once. Police sirens suddenly tear through the silence of the night. Flashing lights flood the streets. Chaos erupts across the town as law enforcement begins cracking down on the criminal activity spreading beneath the surface for years. Panic spreads instantly. People begin running. Doors slam shut. Secrets get exposed in real time. Rue finds herself caught directly in the middle of the nightmare she feared was coming all along. Every survival instinct inside her activates immediately. She runs not just from danger, but from the horrifying reality that her past choices finally created consequences she cannot escape anymore. The intensity becomes overwhelming. Rue's breathing turns unstable as she moves through dark streets, trying to stay ahead of the people hunting her. The fear feels raw and uncontrollable. Every second matters. Every mistake could destroy her life forever. But even during the chaos, Rue begins realizing something terrifying about herself. A part of her is tired of running, tired of fear, tired of surviving one disaster after another. For the first time, Rue starts confronting the emotional emptiness she spent years trying to escape through addiction. And that realization hurts more than any physical danger surrounding her. Back at the Jacobs family home, another emotional war reaches its climax. The truth hidden beneath years of manipulation, toxic masculinity, fear, and silence finally starts surfacing. Nate's relationship with his father reaches a devastating turning point that changes everything permanently. Years of emotional damage erupt into confrontation as the illusion of control completely collapses. The Jacobs family dynamic, already poisoned for years, finally tears itself apart beyond repair. Nothing will ever return to normal after this night. Cassie, emotionally shattered and mentally exhausted, finally reaches the point where reality crashes into her completely. The dream is over. The fantasy is dead. And standing inside the ruins of her own choices, she is forced to face the terrifying emptiness left behind. Her emotional destruction becomes one of the most painful moments of the entire night, because underneath all the mistakes, all the obsession, and all the chaos, Cassie was simply someone desperate to feel loved. But desperation without self-worth always leads toward destruction. As the police operation intensifies, gunshots suddenly echo through the night, instantly turning panic into pure terror. Nobody knows exactly where the violence is coming from at first. People scream, cars crash, the entire atmosphere transforms into uncontrollable chaos. The line between victim and survivor becomes blurred instantly. Rue freezes for a moment as reality crashes into her harder than ever before. This is no longer emotional drama. This is life and death. The terrifying thing about this finale is not just the violence itself, but what it reveals about every character involved. Each person reaches a moment where they can no longer hide from who they truly are. Rue cannot hide from her addiction and trauma. Cassie cannot hide from her emotional emptiness. Nate cannot hide from the darkness inside himself. Maddie cannot ignore the emotional damage surrounding her anymore. Every illusion gets destroyed one by one. And yet somehow, beneath all the chaos, there is still a painful sense of humanity inside these characters. They are broken people trying to survive emotional pain in the worst possible ways. That is what makes the entire night feel so tragic. Nobody started this journey wanting to become monsters, but trauma, fear, loneliness, addiction, and obsession slowly transformed all of them into versions of themselves they barely recognize anymore. As the episode reaches its final moments, the tension becomes unbearable. Rue's fate hangs uncertainly in the balance as danger closes in from every direction. Cassie's emotional state feels completely unstable. Nate stands surrounded by the destruction created by his own decisions. And the town itself feels permanently changed after one night of violence, secrets, and emotional collapse. The final moments leave behind a terrifying realization that even if these characters survive physically, emotionally, they may never recover from what happened here. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi. The countdown never really stopped. Because for Rue Bennett, the scariest part was never the drugs, the violence, or even the people hunting her. The scariest part was realizing that eventually, every person must face the truth about themselves. And sometimes that truth is far more terrifying than death itself. But the horror does not end there. After the gunshots fade and the police lights disappear into the distance, the silence becomes even more terrifying. Rue sits alone, completely exhausted, staring at the darkness around her while trying to understand how everything spiraled so far out of control. Her hands are shaking, her breathing is uneven, and for the first time in a long time, she cannot hide behind drugs, excuses, or distractions anymore. The emotional weight of everything finally crashes into her at once. Every person she hurt, every promise she broke, every moment she wasted trying to escape reality instead of facing it. Rue realizes survival is not the same thing as healing. Staying alive is only the beginning. The real battle is learning how to live with the damage left behind. At the same time, Cassie reaches the lowest emotional point of her entire life. Completely isolated and emotionally shattered, she begins confronting the painful truth she spent so long avoiding. She was never chasing Nate because he made her happy. She was chasing the feeling of being wanted because deep inside, she never believed she was enough on her own. And that realization destroys her emotionally. The obsession, the desperation, the constant need for validation finally leave her completely empty. For the first time, Cassie is forced to look at herself without the fantasy she created in her mind. No distractions, no romantic illusions, just loneliness and regret staring back at her. Meanwhile, Nate's situation becomes even darker. The control he spent years fighting for completely slips away from him. His relationships are broken beyond repair, his family is collapsing, and the emotional damage caused by his father continues poisoning every part of his life. But the most terrifying part is that Nate finally starts seeing himself clearly. Underneath the confidence, manipulation, and anger is someone deeply afraid of becoming the same monster he spent his entire life hating. And that fear begins consuming him from the inside, because no matter how hard Nate tries to escape his past, the truth always follows him. Maddie, on the other hand, walks away from the chaos differently. The pain is still there, but something inside her changes permanently. Instead of letting betrayal destroy her, she begins understanding her own value beyond toxic relationships and emotional games. The experience hardens her emotionally, but it also opens her eyes. She realizes she wasted too much time fighting for people who never truly protected her. And for the first time, Maddie stops looking backward. She starts looking forward. But the most chilling part of the finale comes in the final moments. Rue hears that familiar voice inside her head again. Calm, cold, patient. Laurie's presence still lingers like a shadow over everything. Even after all the violence, all the fear, and all the destruction, Rue understands something horrifying. This story may not actually be over. The danger never fully disappeared. It only became quieter. And that final realization leaves the future uncertain for everyone involved. Because in the world of Euphoria, consequences never disappear. Trauma never disappears. The past never disappears. It waits silently in the dark until eventually it comes back for everyone.